ready, I'll start. Oh, okay, sorry. All right, so hello everybody. My name is Dr. Fadi Castronovo. I'm representing many different people for today's presentation. I'm coming from the University of Brighton, but I also represent my company, which is related to being the external evaluator for this grant that I'm part of together with different members, Wei Wu and Vivien and Arlo from Fresno State, Sara Kassis from Sonoma State, and Abraham Wolcott from San Jose State University. So we have a big group, and today I'll be kind of discussing some of the work that we have been doing as part of a National Science Foundation research grant that is related to the training of faculty in implementing XR, extended reality, in STEM classrooms. Just to give you a little bit of background before I even get started with giving you the background, we have representatives from Fresno State that are coming from construction management and project management and just general built environment. I teach in the built environment program at University of Brighton, but we also have people coming from Sonoma State that are coming from physics, and Abraham from chemistry. So it is a multidisciplinary group. And we also have Frank Gomez from the Chancellor's Office of the California State University. So as you can see, it's a very California-centric grant, me being the external evaluator coming from a different university. So we were very interested in implementing and growing the implementation of extended reality inside of classrooms, mainly because there's quite a lot of overwhelming claims that there's educational benefits in implementing XR. And when I say XR, I'm not going to go into the full definition, but just by looking at the graph here, you can see that we have augmented reality, extended reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality. So that's the general definition, and as you probably heard it, whether it's through the news or through some publication, there are claims that there's benefits to implementing this type of technology inside of the classroom, such as improving student engagement and also improved learning outcomes. However, at least in the CSU system, there is yet a fractional implementation of that inside of all STEM classrooms beyond just engineering or beyond the built environment. So what we have seen is that there are some faculty champions and pioneers that are implementing some version of XR inside of the 23 campuses and have seen some certain preliminary success. But before we decided to develop our grant, and also as we started developing our grant and implementing it, we wanted to identify what were some of the barriers, right? Whether they were intrinsic or extrinsic barriers to the potential diffusion of XR into regular classrooms. So we came up with the Alice XR framework, and as you can see, we have quite a big group of collaborators, and we also started collaborating with community colleges as well. For a little bit of background, community colleges tend to be two-year programs or colleges that introduce the students to the first 2 years of their education, whether it's engineering or other STEM programs. They tend to do 2 years and then move into some of the bigger systems, whether it's the University of California system or the California State University system. So the idea here was that we wanted to introduce to current faculty and new faculty, or even quite established faculty, to the concepts of implementing XR inside of the classroom. But not only implementing the technology, but also introducing them to pedagogical concepts such as active learning, learning by doing, experiential learning. So having a strong pedagogical framework and theoretical framework and foundation to then introduce to them also the technology that they can implement. We also introduced them to a quite large repository of existing tools that are out there that are mainly open source or some that are also paid. And this includes anything from built environment to STEM to technology, mathematics, and science as well. But we also wanted to support them in developing their own tools as well. So this is a one-year program where faculty sign up. We introduce them and we train them in the pedagogical aspects, but then we also train them in implementing it into the classroom and also train them to potentially develop their own tools as well. We're currently in the second year, but when we were first started, we asked the following research questions. What are the research barriers and pathways to adoption of XR? And so we wanted to kind of identify what were these main barriers, and then identify what were these pathways that we can then overcome these barriers with. Why is this research unique? Mainly because the CSU system is the largest public university system in the United States. It's larger than the UCs, it's larger than many others. So we have 23 campuses, so we have a quite large institution. We are also a institution system that is heavy in teaching load, so we are primarily focused on undergraduate teaching. So we have large classroom sizes with large amount of students, but also being in California, we have also a high percentage of historical underrepresented and minority students. This can range anything from Latino students or Latinx students to Black students to I mentioned Latinos as well. So before actually coming to Brighton, I used to teach in California, and my classroom was about 70% Latino, and then 60% first generation coming to college. So we are looking at a prime type of students that we want to enable them to be introduced to technical tools and then empower them to get through the system as well. And because we have high enrollment, and because we have students that are coming from first generation, we also have what is called DFW, which stands for students getting Fs, students getting Ds, and students withdrawing. So we have a high rate of those students as well. So we wanted to really tackle this by implementing XR, by engaging the student population quite a lot. So we wanted to address this research questions in identifying the barriers and identifying the pathways to tackle these. So we decided to interview subject matter experts, and we developed a survey, questionnaire of semi-structured interviews based on the technology acceptance model, the unified theory of acceptance use of technology model. And we looked at three major lenses, whether they have challenges from a financial aspect, from a faculty aspect, and then from an institutional environment. And I'll explain each one of these as we go through. But then we all looked at each of these lenses from different phases, whether it's they're starting their adoption, whether they're already integrating, and they're already implementing it as well. So you can see here the semi-structured interview protocol that we came up with. These on the left-hand side, we have the different lenses, and then each phase is across. And then you can see that we start identifying from a thematic analysis perspective of these semi-structured interviews. We identify things such as cost of procurement during the adoption phase in the financial aspect, or training related for faculty. They need training during the integration, or the learning delivery. They need support in implementing and delivering these type of technology in the classroom. So I'm just gonna give you a little bit of the highlights. There's quite a lot of data that we captured from this. But just to give you an idea, we interviewed 6 subject matter experts. We conducted interviews from February 2022 to January 2022. We conducted these over Zoom, and then we had a research assistant help us with the data processing and assisting with the thematic analysis. So let's get right into the detail. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the theme, the major theme that we looked at, and then some verbalization. I just gave you some examples of what some are the major things that the members have said. And then how many times, so on the right-hand side is the total times that verbalization or that theme has been mentioned. So you can see things such as cost of procurement. There's definitely challenges with purchasing the XR equipment, while XR or virtual reality headset like the Meta Quest has come down quite a lot in price. There's still definitely a cost associated to it. There's problems with having the infrastructure or cost of deployment, such as having the spaces, the bandwidth, not only technical bandwidth like internet bandwidth, but also having the personal bandwidth to even implement this as well, and then different types of tools. So beyond financial barriers, we also identified what we called faculty barriers, and this could be things such as I need the teaching load to be reduced. And would have more time to implement VR, right? So being a very teaching heavy and not necessarily research focused institution system, we don't have that much time to then create that space to innovate, or that space to research and then integrate new technology. So supporting the faculty with time release or even financial release to implement it, that would be really good. But then things such as, I don't know if there's any training that is provided to faculty. So that's one of the last points. That's something that we really wanted to tackle. And so the ALICE-XR program and framework wanted to tackle especially that part to then support the faculty in addressing these. Other things as very basics, like we don't have storage in the back of the classroom, or we don't have physical space to then store all the equipment, or in a dream world I would have a developer, I would be able to lay out exactly what I'm looking for. So obviously there's a lot more of these barriers, and you can see there's quite a lot of things that we need to overcome in order to implement this type of technology inside of the classroom. But just to give you some of the hints that we have looked at. So then we also asked the participants to start identifying, or help us identify, what are some of the pathways? What did they do in order for them to overcome these barriers? So obviously they had to get strong buy-in from the leadership. So things such as the president of the university was very, very generous in supporting us, right? And then looking at the seed granting. I can tell you when I was still in California, I would get like maybe $10,000 to do a seed grant for like a 1-year internal, and that helped me quite a lot. Or then collaborating with another university to get another small amount of money that would help me to develop new type of technology. So 2 major things in terms of financial, outstanding leadership and seed grants are definitely supportive. Then providing faculty training, so giving buyout time or giving support from a financial perspective to maybe stop teaching one class for 1 semester, so then you can start investigating how you can implement it. And then, just like you mentioned, scaffolding of the learning design, not only scaffolding of the learning design inside of the classroom, but also scaffolding the development as well. It took me several years to develop one type of solution, and so I started off with a small, with a pilot program, and then proceeded from there. Then have, from an institutional barrier perspective, it's really important to involve the students into the process of implementing it. So having students as interns to help teachers. In the States we have, or at least in California, we tend to have or hire students quite a lot to help us do very basic type of research, and or even support us in just getting the headsets from one classroom to the other can be really helpful. And then a dedicated space can be really powerful in order to support that. So what to do with these findings? Definitely it can help us identify, the next steps in terms of how we can tackle these barriers. The ALICE-XR program is now entering its 3rd year. We already have trained over 20 faculty in implementing it. Several of them have developed their own XR solutions and are now spinning off and doing their own research based on that. And we're also looking to expand this even further beyond the CSC system. So it's important to cultivate that culture of sharing, and then create that louder voice to then say we need the support from the institution, and then extend it. So hopefully I try to speak as fast as possible and cover as much as possible. There's a lot more to the program, but I'll take any questions.